in Amherst, Ohio. And if you looked, obviously, you clicked the thumbnail, you know what you were getting into. The Amherst Historical Society is hosting an event this weekend. It is a 2-day event, today and tomorrow, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's all about living history, but even more importantly, it's about what the soldiers and sailors and airmen of every war that the United States fought in, what they ate. And so we are going to go to these booths and see what there is to see and maybe eat something. You ready to eat something?
Yeah, the yellow grenades are just usually.
Okay, so I'm going to turn all of you guys around and let you see what's going on. We'll kind of get our lay of the land of Sandstone Village, and we'll go try some food. So I'm going to turn you around. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah. So as you can see, I wonder if we can find Brian somewhere. We probably should. Get a giant turkey leg. Megan wants us to get a giant turkey leg. You up for a giant turkey leg?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can do that. I mean, maybe. I don't know. It's like we just got here. I have no idea what's here yet.
That's true.
You're discovering this with us.
That's right. So again, for those of you who are just joining us right now, we are at Sandstone Village in Amherst. Hey, we made it. Sorry we're so late. How are you? It's good to see you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
It's all right. You're live.
Good to see you.
Say hello to everybody on YouTube.
Hello, welcome to the Taste of History 2024. We're so happy you're here.
Yeah.
No, we're glad to be here for sure.
Good. So you just got here?
We just got here.
All right. Well, then I will say on camera, there's so much to see. So just walk around, talk to all the reenactors. They've come from multiple states to put this event on, and they brought their own personal collections, and it was just incredible.
Excellent. Will do.
All
right.
Starting with this guy right here.
Thank you. How's it going?
Pretty spot on yourself.
Oh, pretty good. What era are we in now?
This is the 1940s. This is the German prisoners of war barracks.
Is it?
This building was built originally as a civilian conservation corps barracks during the 1930s, and during the 1940s was used as a German prisoner of war barracks here in Amherst.
So this actual building was...
Yes, this building
really?
housed German soldiers during 1944, 45, and 46.
Can we come in and take a look?
Come in. The front porch is an addition.
Okay.
That was added on later, but this is the actual structure of the building itself.
Gotcha.
So the German prisoners of war who were here in Amherst were originally men who came from Camp Perry in Port Clinton.
Okay.
It was the largest prisoner of war camp that housed several thousand Germans here in Ohio. Then they were originally sent as smaller sub-camps out around here. Here in Amherst, there were 2 of these barracks that serviced the sandstone quarries and railroad that were here in town.
Gotcha.
The Germans here were treated incredibly well. It was almost comical how well the Germans were treated here in the United States.
Really?
They got paid the same as U.S. soldiers. They were fed the same as U.S. soldiers. They were clothed the same as U.S. soldiers. Like, this is actually an American Army uniform.
Right.
The Germans were issued U.S. Army uniforms that were simply marked with PW to identify them as prisoners.
Gotcha.
So they were treated ridiculously well by any other standards by any other nation. They were given civilian jobs that they were paid for, and they could use that money to buy Coca-Cola, beer, ice cream. Occasionally, even here in town, it wasn't for all of them, there were guys who got leaves to go into town, to go to the movie theaters, go to the bars.
A POW.
Yes. The original thing was, you're in the United States.
Right.
These guys were German prisoners of war. If they were going to escape, there's very little chance of them actually getting out of the country. Most of the guys who did escape, there were very few overall, got out to just be free. There was one guy who escaped from a camp in New Mexico and was wanted on the FBI's most wanted list for 48 years. He became a civilian. He didn't go back to Germany. He got a new identity, became a civilian, started a new life, had children, and the FBI just gave up. And eventually he kind of turned himself in. The FBI's like, oh, we gave up on your case years ago. You're fine.
Nice. Wow.
He wrote a book, I think, called Hitler's Last Soldier, if I recall correctly.
Wow.
But very, very few issues with the prisoners. The prisoners were very happy with where they were, and they were able to do the things they wanted to do. They had great talking with the locals. A lot of the locals here were actually first and second generation Germans, so they were able to speak with each other. We've had plenty of locals come through here who've told the stories of their parents talking. They're like, "Oh, my dad talked about working with the Germans over in the quarries." And be like, my dad spoke German, so they would speak with each other. And like one of the local church groups here in Amherst raised money, and for Christmas they bought all the Germans thermoses.
That's crazy. That's wild.
So the Germans had great accommodations here in Amherst, and just in general, they were issued U.S. Army bunks, U.S. Army bed sheets, and they were given changes of clothes, duplicate clothing. They were given cold and hot weather clothes. So they got big wool overcoats in the winter. During confinement letters, they got black wool dress uniforms. This is their summer uniform. This is made out of khaki. And they also got jean uniforms, jean denim, like you've probably seen them outside, which was their work uniforms.
Right.
So the Germans were able also to keep their old German uniforms.
Oh, wow.
So lots of guys were actually able to permit to keep wearing their Africa Corps uniforms. All the guys who were here in Ohio from Port Clinton and Camp Perry were all men who were captured in Africa. They were part of the Africa Corps under Rommel.
Rommel, yeah.
So all of the guys, all of them were. So the Germans also were segregated by their political beliefs. So if a guy was a very die-hard fanatic, they would send him to a different camp. So they wanted to make sure everyone that was in this area were guys who were politically trustworthy and wouldn't do anything. And that worked out because around these parts, the Germans were very, very decent. They were happy with where they were. They were treated incredibly well.
Imagine so, yeah.
Another story from locally from this camp was every week the dessert for the Germans got changed. And they would always bicker about if they wanted ice cream or Coke.
Oh, that's funny.
So we're getting stories from the locals who tell us about stuff that was happening locally. The Germans were over here were making artwork, they were doing sketches, they were making carvings, and they were selling it to the local populace. We actually have a hand-carved figurine there that was done by a prisoner here.
Wow. Oh, this one right here.
Yeah. You can pick it up if you'd like.
This was hand carved by a prisoner of war. No
There's
kidding.
plenty of prisoner of war artwork on the wall as well. Yeah. Sketches were done by people. They loved doing little things that were just...
That's awesome.
It was something to do. They also did aluminum carvings. They did paintings, drawings, and aluminum carvings were some of their favorite things to do. And all sorts of stuff is done like this. And they worked. They worked right, literally side by side with normal Americans. Yes. There was usually one guard, at least in this area. It was supposed to be a 1-to-6 ratio for every 6 prisoners. Okay. One guard.
Gotcha.
Around here, they were just like 12. It was 1 to 12. So there were 12 prisoners for every 1 guard. And we even told stories by the locals about the guys who worked in these areas. There was one story of a guy